Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-aliyyil azim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Abil Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin la siyama baqiyatillahi fil aradin. Ajalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-sharif. Allahumma akhrijni min dhulumati al-wahm wa akrimni bi nur al-fahm. اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Hikmatul Ishraq, the Illuminationist philosophy. And today we want to continue our study of Sheikh Ishraq's structure of existence. And we have two more aspects of this system, two more, you can say, levels of existence. The first one that we discussed today is what he calls Anwaar-e Esfahbudiiyyeh, the lights which are responsible for managing body. He calls Esfahbud because in Farsi, Sepahbud means head of Sepah. Sepah means army. So if they want to refer to an army commander, they say Sepahbud. Even in Iranian military ranking, so we have for the generals Sartib, Sallashkar, Sepahbud, and Arteshbud. So Sepahbud means commander of great part of the whole army. Arteshbud is like the main commander. So he calls these souls which are responsible for management of the body Anwaar-e Esfahbudiiyyeh. So human soul is mujarrad. Why? Because of having knowledge of itself. So this knowledge makes it mujarrad, this knowledge by presence, and makes it a kind of immaterial light. Unlike the next level, which is dark, which is about the physical objects. So the soul, because of its immateriality, is not part of body, and it's not contained by body, but there is some kind of belonging. There is a relation, definitely. Without relation, the soul cannot function, cannot run the body. And also the relation is a way that soul also benefits from the body. It's not just the soul runs the body. So it's a relation of istikmal. So the soul also benefits from the body and runs the body. So there is ta'alluq, there is belonging, but not like being inside the body, being contained or being part of the body. So he calls then the soul as Nur Mudabbir or Nur Mutasarrif, has ability to manipulate not in the negative sense, in the philosophical sense, means to affect, or Nur Esfahbudiiyyeh. And he calls body dhil, like shadow, or saisia, meaning wall. Imagine there is a wall around the light, or shadow. Shadow also is not coming from light. Remember, shadow doesn't come from light. Shadow is when there is a barrier, there is a ha'il that causes light tend not to reach, and therefore will be shadow. From light, only light comes, maybe a weaker light, but no shadow. Imagine if we have light and just a plain desert. The light goes, doesn't produce shadow. What is the relation between nafs and the dominant hierarchical light, Anwaar-e-Esfahbudiiyyeh? It's weaker because he believes in tashkik. So the difference between weaker light and stronger light is the degree, intensity, shadda. So this light of nafs is under them and weaker than them. Then he says, human beings are originating from the east of creation. We are not talking about east of the earth, we are talking about the creation, sharq, where there is a light coming, but has traveled to the west of existence, gharb hasti, and therefore this traveling from east to the west is coming down. It's a fall. It's like hubut. It's not vertical. East is higher. So the soul has fallen to this physical world, which is the place of darkness, and therefore the soul suffers from forgetting itself. It's a kind of self-forgetfulness, khod faramushi. And to get rid of this and free itself, the soul needs riyazat, disciplining, practicing, spiritual wayfaring, detaching from material engagements and barriers, so that the soul can be again going closer to its origin. Then he says, in our understanding and in our faculties which are for the activities, the soul has certainly the main role. So when it comes, for example, to the things which are not a matter of understanding, the faculties which are not responsible for idrak, for example, the one which is responsible for nutrition, for growth, for reproduction. So he says all these faculties are manifestations of light of the soul, or light which is the soul, light Anwaar-e Esfahbudiiyyeh. So this Anwaar-e Esfahbudiiyyeh runs the body for reproduction, for example, for nutrition. So the exact thing that it's said here is, در حقیقت جهات نهفته در نور مدبر خود را به صورت این قوا در بدن نمایان می سازد. So the hidden aspects in the light of the soul, which is responsible for management of the body, manifests itself in these ways. So the things which are there for example, anger comes from qahr. You remember we talked about qahr and mahabbat, about dominance and love. So dominance leads to faculty of anger functioning, And mahabba, love, leads to faculty of shahwat, appetites and desires. But when it comes to the faculties responsible for idrak, for understanding, then he believes in 5 senses, and he believes that the soul is responsible for their functioning, but he has different ideas than peripatetic philosophers when it comes to the role of imagination, memory, etc. So this is a very brief report about what he says about nafs. We are not talking about ma'rifatul nafs or ilmun nafs according to Shaykh. We are just trying to explain the structure of existence. Then the next one, and the lowest one, is what he calls Baraazikh-e Ghaasegheh. Ghaasekh, we have also in the Quran, means dark. Barzakh means interval, barrier, something which stands between 2 things. مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان. But remember, when he says barzakh, it may come to your mind that this station or this level is between 2 things, therefore it is called barzakh. So between the light, which is soul, and something else lower, so it's barzakh. No. The reason he calls barzakh is not because it stands between 2 things. He calls barzakh because they are themselves suffering from darkness. So because they are dark, he calls barzakh, like ha'il or barrier, not between 2 things, not like a partition, like just something that has no capacity to be enlightened. So they themselves become barriers for other things. Even parts of a physical object becomes barrier, doesn't have light and doesn't let light reach the things around it. So these material things which are dark, they have no life or self-consciousness. Remember, we said nafs is mujarrad and has a light because it has understanding of itself, knowledge by presence. These things don't have knowledge of themselves. They don't understand themselves. Therefore, their identity is darkness. They have no light. Sometimes he calls them Baraazikh-e Ghaasegheh. Sometimes he calls Baraazikh-e Muzlime, Baraazikh-e Zulumani, Jawahir Muzlime, Jawahir Ghaasegheh. Dark substances, dark, barriers, whatever. Now, what we would like to mention is that what is going to happen to relation of soul and body in human beings. This is very important discussion that takes us to the discussion about resurrection. Like other Muslim philosophers, he believes in resurrection. He believes that human soul is not going to perish or to cease to existence by death. So it's going to remain. Anwaar-e Esfahbudiiyyeh are going to remain. And he argues for that. For example, one argument is that this light is created by Anwaar-e Qahirah Esfahbudiiyyeh, the dominant hierarchical lights, and as long as they are there, which is the case because they're eternal, then their effect should remain also there. Neither the light, which is nafs, which is human soul, this Nur-e Esfahbudiiyyeh, destroys itself, nor the cause is going to destroy its effect. When the cause is there, the complete cause is there, the effect must be also there. So there is nothing from inside or outside that would threaten the existence of Nur-e Esfahbudiiyyeh or nafs. But the question is, what is going to happen to nafs after separation from the body? As you know, one idea among some religious people in different traditions is reincarnation, tanasukh. They say that human soul can belong to another body in this world and then enjoy or suffer. They call it tanasukh. Or it can even belong to the body of an animal, like maskh, or even a plant or a non-living being. So there is tanasukh, there is maskh, there is faskh, there is raskh. There are different types. Muslim philosophers like Ibn Sina, Masha'un are very much against tanasukh, and they find it not acceptable, not only because it's not compatible with the scriptures, but also philosophically they believe that this is a way that something which has become formal and actualized is going back then to a lower state. This is not possible. When something has become more actual, more perfect, then doesn't go back. So they don't accept tanasukh. The only way forward is to be in Barzakh and then Day of Judgment, resurrection. It might be by belonging temporarily to a Barzakhi body, and then on the Day of Judgment having, for example, another kind of body, because we believe that there is body, there is corporeal. Ma'ad, resurrection, Ma'ad Jismani, so there is another body, but maybe that body is different from body in dunya, even different from body in Barzakh on the Day of Judgment, but there is body. So Ibn Sina was very much against tanasukh, like many Muslim philosophers, theologians, etc. Shaykh Ishraq also is not in favor of tanasukh, but also because he has great appreciation of ancient Iranian philosophers, and some of them have this idea of tanasukh. So in some places he says that he has his own ideas, some of the ideas, but finally in Hikmatul Ishraq he explains what is his idea. So for example, here in the book says that in some of his short books like Al-Alwah-ul-Imadiyyeh or Kalimatul Tasawwuf or Al-Lamahat, like Masha'un, he rejects reincarnation, tanasukh. But in his educational books, which are like textbooks, Mutarahat and Talwihat, he argues or mentions the argument of Masha'in against reincarnation, and also brings the arguments of people who believe in reincarnation and questions some of the arguments, but doesn't take a very clear, decisive position. But in Hikmatul Ishraq, he makes his argument clear. His position can be known from Hikmatul Ishraq. So what he says is basically that those who are arguing philosophically against tanasukh, reincarnation, or in favor of reincarnation, he says both their arguments are not convincing. Philosophers against reincarnation and philosophers in favor of reincarnation, he says their arguments are not complete. And therefore, he tries to use other arguments, and also he is mindful of what we have in Quran and Hadith. So he says maybe there is tanasukh for vicious people, wicked people. Maybe these, because of not being able to achieve certain level of progress and going away from darkness towards light, maybe they need still to belong to this dunya and remain in dunya, and the only way is to belong to a body. So maybe they have to belong to another body, and this process repeats till they can leave this world. And finally, of course, they go to Barzakh according to him. But those who are very high, they don't need this. Those who are also in middle position, also they can go right away to Barzakh. So he categorizes this into three groups according to the classification that we have in the Quran. We have, for example, Surah Waqi'ah, Ashabul Yamin, Ashabul Shimal, and Al-Muqarrabun, those who are very near, brought by Allah very near to him. So he says human beings also have these three options. Al-Muqarrabun are insanhay kamil, are perfect beings or most perfect beings, and Anwaar-e Tahireh. Anwaar-e, as we said, is nafs. So pure souls that when it comes to knowledge and practice, they reached perfection. As much as a human being can reach, not absolutely perfect is only God. But insan kamil means a human being that has reached his potentials. So Muqarrabun have reached their potentials through knowledge and practice, and while they are living in this world, they are already detached from dunya. They are physically alive but not attached to dunya, to the physical world, and they have managed to overcome darkness. These people, based on riyadat, self-discipline, spiritual exercises, etc., they have managed to be connected to the universe of lights, and they have lots of love in themselves. These people are not going to be attracted again after death by physical world, by physical body. It's impossible for them after reaching that again come down and start like a child in a human body, for example, or animal body. That perfection cannot be undone. So this is about the first group. So they have reached their perfection of light, and therefore, with respect to the universe of Madde, the material world, they have qahr, dominance, and with respect to the higher, they have mahabba, they have love. And when they die, they join the universe of light, where they have mahabba and mehr towards. So for such perfect souls, there is a heaven which is more kind of ma'navi, spiritual, it's unlimited, and they have so much of engagement with light. They have so much of engagement with light that they don't want to go back. Then we have a middle group. The middle group are Ashabul Yamin. They are very good, but not Muqarrab. They have not totally detached themselves from material engagements. And these people also are not going to come back, although they are not very perfect, but they are not going to come back to dunya. And he says these are the people who have proper aqidah, they have righteous deeds, but ittisal, connection with the universe of light has not become a permanent quality for them, have not become malaka for them. Malaka is a permanent quality that is not easily stopped. It's possible to lose malaka, but it's not easy. So because they don't have, sometimes they have flashes of light. We studied this with some of you in Namat Tase of Isharat Tanbihat. So the flashes of light are there, but not completely and continuously. So therefore, they have some level of belonging to the physical world. But anyway, these people are not going to go back. They will be in Barzakh, in Alam Misal Munfasil. When we talked about Alam Misal, we said there is Muttasil, which is inside us, like when we dream, when we have khayal, and there is Munfasil, which is independent. So they will be there till the day of judgment. They never go back to body. So what they do, it's very interesting. It says whatever they like, from delicious food, beautiful faces or forms, attractive sceneries, whatever they want, they create for themselves and enjoy. Because the border between reality and imagining there is very, thin. So they can think of these things and enjoy. Like, for example, in your dreams, sometimes you can really enjoy something which is not real, but you can really enjoy. Because in your dream, you are experiencing that. For example, in dream, you are eating something very delicious or something bitter. I remember once in my dream, many years ago, I had something, which was, the taste was, spoiled. I don't know. For a few days, I was, remembering that, and it was making me sad. So he says they can enjoy these things like delicious food, etc., that they want, they create, and they will enjoy. So it's not like dream, but dreams, can help us understand. Dream is just inside. This is a world of reality, but you make this reality for yourself. Even some philosophers have this idea for Day of Judgment, the heaven afterwards, for example, that heaven is something that you are making and reaching, and what you are. Of course, they have to then explain lots of other details. Then what about extra blessing you receive? What about interactions between people of heaven? There's a big discussion here about resurrection. So بنابراین in the book says دسته دوم با صورتهای مثالی لذت بخش و اشباح مجرد نورانی در عالم مثال محشور خواهند بود. So they are not coming to dunya. They will be with مثالی forms and images and faces which are giving them pleasure, and also اشباح مجرد نورانی which is ارباب انواع which we talked about it before. They are there in عالم مثال منفصل. But what is different from our typical understanding is this part. Up to this part is okay, maybe you can say it's temporary, but this part, he says بدلیل عدم قطع تعلقات به طور کامل, this commentator is saying, because this middle group أصحاب اليمين have not completely detached themselves from the physical world, they will remain in عالم مثال forever. برای همیشه در عالم مثال خواهند بود. Therefore heaven for them would be بهشت مثالی سوری. So there is no another heaven, permanent heaven, perfect heaven coming for them. They remain at this level. The third group, أصحاب الشمال. أصحاب الشمال are the people who were attached to dunya. They were not like the second or middle group that had righteous deed, proper aqidah, but just they didn't have permanent quality of connection with light. They didn't have malaka. So this was the second group. The third group, no. They are attached to dunya and they are attracted by those dark beings, and they are immersed in sins and vicious or immoral or ugly acts, and they have malakat zulmani. The second group didn't have malakat nuri, but didn't have malakat zulmani as well. These people have permanent qualities of viciousness and darkness. So he says these people, after they separate from their body, they will join عالم مثال منفصل again, like the second group. They will join the independent عالم مثال. And he says, because he doesn't see decisive argument against or in favor of tanasukh. Of course, he's talking about philosophical, intellectual arguments. Then he says it's difficult to, or it's not possible for him to prefer one side over the other, to say that these people go back to dunya so that they can in another body maybe raise their level and reach the point that they can be at least like the second group, or they are not going to go back to dunya and they will remain in alam misal munfasil. But he says even if they go back to dunya, if tanasukh is correct, then finally this process of going back to another animal soul will end with reaching alam misal munfasil. So if tanasukh is correct, it takes time, maybe it's few stages. If tanasukh is not correct, directly they go to alam misal munfasil. And then in alam misal munfasil, there are صور مثالی ظلمانی. There are dark faces and images of that time, of that realm, that annoys them. We said middle group, Ashabul Yamin, enjoy, even they can create for themselves beautiful things to enjoy. Like, when you have beautiful dreams, for example. But these people are going to suffer with the dark things that they experience. And he says they remain forever in this Jahannam Misali Mujarrad, in this immaterial hell, which is, of course, Misali, is not the final hell. It seems that Shaykh Ishraq, if we accept this commentary, has made progress in philosophically explaining some of the realities about resurrection, but in my humble view, he has not been able to reach a compatible philosophical account of resurrection which is compatible with the Quran and Hadith. So to some extent he has made progress, but not completely. And the way we understand is that we are going to have, after Barzakh, the day of judgment, and then we are not again only in Alam Mithal. We are going to enter, at least for the people of heaven, in a world which is more intellectual than just Mithali, which is permanent and independent, and you are not just enjoying your own, thoughts and your own, for example, imaginations or, ideas. Anyway, as you know, resurrection is one of the most difficult topics for philosophers, and at the same time that we should appreciate philosophical attempts and let them be free in their philosophical thinking, but unless they reach a very decisive intellectual point, we should just follow the zahir and the apparent meanings of the scriptures. Okay, this is what he says about the resurrection and the last two levels of existence. The next thing that inshallah we will discuss is about insan kamil wa sayr suluk, about perfect, or some people translate as most perfect, human being and spiritual journey, and how Shaykh Ishraq can analyze and explain a spiritual journey based on his existential or ontological view. I have a meeting and they called me twice. I'm sorry that I thought we start class sooner and finish sooner, but we didn't manage to start sooner. So I stop here. If you have any question or any comment, please let me know. Otherwise, inshallah, we will study next week perfect human being and a spiritual journey. Do you have any question?
No, thank you very much.
You're welcome. May Allah bless you, inshallah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah. May Allah bless you, inshallah. Iltimas dua.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ahsanta. Khuda Hafiz.